Welcome to Stories from the Back with Jan, a quiet place for families, educators and experts to come together and build confident learners from the very beginning. I'm Jan. Let's begin. Hi, this episode is The Power of Ordinary Moments. Sometimes the most important moments don't look important at all. They don't come with certificates. They don't come with reports. Nobody takes photographs of them. They're just ordinary moments. A child helping in the garden, feeding a pet, setting the table, tidying up without being asked, and perhaps the most curious thing is while these moments don't look like learning, they may be doing some of the most important work of all. Today, I'd like to explore how ordinary moments matter and why so much of childhood happens in the places between what we usually notice. Welcome to Stories from the Mat with Jan. I'm Jan Falconer, a children's author, wife, mother, sister, aunt, cousin, nonna, and someone who has spent a lifetime watching children learn. In the last episode, I was thinking about repetition and why children ask for the same stories over and over again. We talked about how repetition helps children move from listening to recognizing, to anticipating, to participating. We talked about confidence and capability and the importance of familiar experiences. And what got me thinking was about something else. Where does most of the learning actually happen? Because when people talk about learning, they often think about classrooms, lessons, reading schemes, and educational activities. Whilst those things matter, there are other things that matter too. The more I've watched children over the years, the more I've come to believe that some of the most important learning happens while we're doing something else entirely. It happens in the ordinary moments. Moments that don't look educational at all. I was thinking about this recently when I remembered gardening with young children. I recall a little boy who was exceptionally good at organising everybody else. He knew exactly where things should go. He had opinions about what should be planted, where and when, and he could oversee the entire operation with remarkable efficiency. But he wasn't so enthusiastic about doing the digging, or the weeding, or the carrying. The funny thing was that I can't believe that those same characteristics are still there in him today as he is a grown man and remains wonderfully organised, strategic and full of ideas. Looking back, I can see the strengths emerging in those ordinary moments in the garden. At the time, I simply thought we were gardening. Looking back now, I think something much more interesting was happening because while I was focused on the garden, he was focused on learning something about himself. Children are constantly learning about themselves. They're very good at it, actually. They know what they are good at, what they enjoy, how they contribute, where they fit in. And much of that learning happens during everyday family life. I see it in my nieces and nephews, my grandchildren, my friends' children and grandchildren. When my grandchildren come to visit, they are wonderful in the garden. Their parents have taught them well. They've taught them to weed properly. And there is definitely an art to weeding. You just don't pull the top off and hope for the best. You get stuck in. And so do they. They get stuck in. They work so hard. They're not afraid of getting their hands dirty. What strikes me, I don't need to teach them those things. Somebody already has. Those ordinary family moments have already done the work. The same thing happens indoors, making beds, helping tidy up, setting the table, looking after pets. In fact, one of my grandchildren has taken complete ownership of feeding her cat. One morning when I was staying, the cat was making a tremendous fuss, so I fed it. A perfectly reasonable decision, I thought. Apparently not. The response was immediate. Who fed the cat? The issue wasn't that the cat had been fed. The issue was that I'd done her job. And I remember thinking, that's interesting, because what she was saying was, that's my responsibility. That's my contribution. That's something important that I have to do. And perhaps that's one of the things we sometimes miss when we think about learning. Learning isn't just about information. It's about becoming capable, becoming responsible, becoming confident, becoming someone who contributes. We've spoken about Urie Bronfenbrenner, whose work has influenced so much of what we understand about children's development. Bronfenbrenner believed that if we want to understand children, we need to look closely at the environments where they actually live their lives. Families, homes, communities, relationships, not just the classroom, not just programs, not just policies, the ordinary places where childhood happens. And I think he's right, because when I look back over the years, the moments that seem to have mattered most were often the moments nobody would have described as educational. Conversations while having dinner, gardening, feeding the pets, walking to school, bedtime stories, the tidying up, the helping, the talking, the being together, the rides on the bus. We've spoken about Kathy Hirsh-Pasek and her work on how children learn. One of the things I appreciate about her research is that she reminds us that learning doesn't only happen when someone decides to teach. Children learn through active, meaningful, and socially connected experiences. The ordinary family life is full of experiences like those. Children are learning language, learning responsibility, learning problem solving, learning how relationships work, learning how to contribute, learning how to be part of a family, often without announcing that learning is taking place. I sometimes think about why ordinary moments are so easy to overlook. They don't feel important. Nobody takes photographs of a child putting out the rubbish. Nobody celebrates a successful weeding session. Well, I might, but no one really does that. Nobody creates certificates for feeding the cat. And yet those moments are quietly helping children develop confidence, competence, and a sense of belonging. Perhaps that's why they matter so much. Because childhood isn't built from special occasions alone. It's built from 1,001 ordinary moments that happen in between. The moments that are repeated. The moments where children discover what they can do and who they are becoming. And perhaps that's something worth remembering, because sometimes the moments that feel ordinary to us are the moments doing the most important work. This is Stories from the Mat with Jan, a quiet place to think, notice and begin. So thank you for joining me. Until the next time, take care.